For much of her life, Dame Judi Dench appeared untouchable in the public imagination. She represented not only excellence, but certainty, the kind that comes from decades of disciplined craft rather than ambition. Audiences believed that respect simply followed her wherever she went, that her reputation shielded her from the quieter struggles that define most creative lives. Yet even legends exist within systems shaped by hierarchy, commerce, and human limitation. Over time, Dench gently dismantled the illusion that stature alone guarantees protection. She did so without bitterness or blame, acknowledging that reverence does not eliminate imbalance. It merely disguises it. Her reflections never aimed to shock or accuse. Instead, they revealed how power often moves invisibly, operating through assumptions rather than confrontation. What emerged was not a story of injustice, but of awareness, the recognition that dignity must sometimes be actively defended, even by those we assume no longer need to. Power that speaks softly. Power rarely announces itself with drama. More often, it appears in small omissions, whose voice is acknowledged, whose instincts are trusted, whose discomfort is quietly minimized. Dench came to understand this truth across different stages of her career, particularly in environments driven more by speed and profit than by reflection. These moments were not marked by overt conflict, but by subtle redirection and unspoken expectation. She noticed when decisions drifted away from collaboration toward convenience, when experience was treated as ornamental rather than essential. Importantly, she never framed these encounters as personal affronts. Instead, she recognized them as structural habits within creative industries. Her response was never reactive. She listened, observed, and adjusted. That awareness became a source of strength. By naming the quiet mechanics of power, without dramatizing them, she reclaimed agency where others might have resigned themselves to inevitability. Authority without noise. Dench never equated authority with volume. When faced with situations where her perspective was overlooked or simplified, she did not escalate. Instead, she relied on clarity, knowing what aligned with her values and what did not. In moments when her work or public presentation felt shaped by priorities she did not share, she chose restraint over resistance. Walking away was not an emotional decision, it was a measured one. She understood that longevity depends not on constant visibility, but on discernment. Her refusals were calm, her boundaries quiet, yet unmistakable. She neither burned bridges nor issued ultimatums. She trusted that her career did not need to justify itself through compromise. That confidence came not from ego, but from self-knowledge. By choosing authority over approval, she preserved the integrity of her craft and proved that influence can exist without spectacle. Collaboration and distance acting, at its best, is a shared act of trust. Dench valued rehearsal rooms where dialogue flowed freely and differences were explored with curiosity rather than dominance. Yet she also encountered environments where communication narrowed, replaced by distance or rigid process. She understood that artists work differently, and she respected varied approaches, but only to the point where mutual presence remained intact. When collaboration shifted into isolation, something essential was lost. Dench did not confront these moments publicly or attempt to correct them through force. She observed how the absence of exchange affected the work, and she made quiet decisions about where to invest her energy next. Respect, to her, was never about agreement or sameness. It was about acknowledgement. When that disappeared, she adjusted her expectations without resentment. Her professionalism never wavered, but her proximity did. Admiration without endurance. Dench has always been generous in her praise of exceptional talent. She understood that brilliance can exist independently of compatibility. Over time, she learned to separate admiration from obligation, a distinction many struggle to make. Working alongside gifted individuals did not require personal endurance at all costs. When creative dynamics became uncomfortable or misaligned, she did not deny the quality of the work produced. She simply recognized that excellence does not excuse unease. This clarity allowed her to maintain grace publicly while protecting herself privately. She did not confuse generosity with self-sacrifice. By holding these two truths at once, respect for ability and respect for self, she avoided bitterness. Her boundaries were not punitive, they were preservative. In choosing not to remain where discomfort persisted, she protected both her joy and her longevity in a profession that often demands too much silence from those who give the most. Mentorship and shifting roles. Early in her career, Dench experienced mentorship as a reciprocal exchange, a space where experience met curiosity and learning flowed in both directions. Over time, she observed how that balance could subtly change as roles shifted. When authority entered the room without humility, dialogue became instruction rather than exploration. Dench never resisted interpretation or challenged leadership for its own sake. She welcomed direction grounded in respect, but when correction lost its generosity, something fragile broke. Rather than defend her position, she stepped back emotionally. The work continued, but intimacy faded. This was not retaliation, it was recognition. Trust, once compromised, rarely returns unchanged. Dench accepted this without drama. She allowed relationships to settle into what they had become without forcing resolution. In doing so, she honored the work while acknowledging the cost. Professionalism remained intact, but closeness did not, and she learned to live with that distinction. Words that linger in theater, language carries weight far beyond intention. Dench understood how a single remark, delivered casually, perhaps thoughtlessly, could alter an entire working relationship. Humor, when misjudged, can slide into dismissal. Authority, when sharpened, can wound instead of guide. She never cataloged these moments publicly or revisited them for sympathy. Instead, she observed how they changed the atmosphere. On stage, her commitment remained absolute. Off stage, something shifted. Warmth gave way to distance. That separation was not punitive. It was protective. Dench believed that not all harm requires confrontation. Some moments simply require adjustment. By withdrawing emotionally rather than escalating conflict, she preserved her equilibrium. The work did not suffer, but the connection did, and once altered, it was never restored. This was not bitterness. It was discernment, learned through time. The discipline of restraint defined Dench's response to disrespect. She did not raise her voice, issue demands, or seek validation through confrontation. Her silence was not confusion, it was choice. She understood that repeatedly explaining oneself to those unwilling to listen diminishes authority rather than strengthens it. Walking away for her was an act of clarity. This approach was often misunderstood as passivity, but it required immense self-trust. She did not need acknowledgement to confirm her worth. By disengaging without spectacle, she retained control over her narrative. Restraint became her quiet resistance in environments that rewarded noise. She believed dignity did not need performance. In choosing absence over argument, she set boundaries that spoke more clearly than any rebuke. This discipline allowed her to remain grounded in her values, even when circumstances tempted compromise. Alignment over accommodation, Dench valued preparation, intention, and respect for the process. She believed comedy, like drama, required discipline, not dismissal. When creative environments treated carefully developed work as disposable or secondary, she recognized misalignment immediately. Rather than negotiate her standards, she chose distance. This was never driven by resentment, only by recognition. Collaboration, in her view, depended on shared purpose. When that disappeared, participation no longer made sense. She did not attempt to correct the room or assert dominance. She simply withdrew. These choices were rarely visible to the public, yet they shaped her career profoundly. Each disengagement clarified her priorities. She understood that success without alignment comes at a personal cost. By choosing accommodation less often, she preserved the joy that first drew her to the craft and ensured that her work remained meaningful, not merely prolific. Grace, as boundary grace, was one of the most misunderstood qualities of Judi Dench's career. It was often mistaken for softness or compliance when in fact it was rooted in certainty. She knew who she was, what she valued, and where her limits lay. That clarity freed her from the need to prove herself. She did not confuse politeness with permission. When something crossed her line, she responded not with confrontation, but with absence. Her refusals were calm, her departures quiet. Yet they were final. As she aged, she resisted narratives that framed experience as fragility. Her authority came from lived knowledge, not nostalgia. She expected respect, not reverence. Simply respect. When it was absent, she adjusted access without apology. In an industry that often equates power with force, her legacy stands as proof that quiet resolve can be just as enduring.